Good morning, y'all. Keith Dykes here with W.K.D. Construction, and it is chilly this morning. It's cold. We are here at the Melton Farm project, and we are going to get started on soffit framing. We're going to do some overhang, some lookout framing. Some people call them barge framing, but we're going to do some lookouts, get our fascia on. We're going to use a 2x6 sub fascia. So we're going to get all the fascia on and kind of get ready for some of the zip roof. I think the first places we're going to start is right here on the gable. We will notch out for a 2x4 to set flush with the top of the top cord of the truss, and we will overhang it total of 12 inches. So we'll notch out, tie our blocking back to the other truss, let it stick out, and then we will put our fly rafter on. And once we get done with the fly rafter, we will install the rest of the 7/16 zip wall. So we're just measuring down 6 inches, and then we will take out a 2x4 width, 3.5 by 1.5 inch deep, and then we will run all the way over to that other truss, tie it in, screw it from the back side, screw it here, and it will overhang. Shit, I'm probably not even showing. You can definitely take a hammer and bust them out, but you get it varies if you break them out. By the time you put your little lookout, it may be down 1/4 inch, so I always cut them. Just makes it smoother, makes it a better fit. All right, now that we have these two on, we will basically, I usually try to go 4 feet, but if we go 4 feet, we're gonna hit those dang gusset plates. So I think I'm just gonna go alternate in between every other gable joist or a gable stud layout. So we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4 down through there. After we cut all of the lookout blocks in, I took the string, or chalk line in this case, but you need to make sure that your gable truss is straight, because if you're hanging over, say 10.5 inches, and your gable truss is not straight, then your fascia is going to look like a damn snake. So we'll grab the string, make sure we are straight on this gable truss, and then in effect your lookout blocks will be straight. But I will still go ahead after we put the fascia on and before we install the roof decking, I will also go ahead and restring the fascia. That way, if there is any variance at all, which there will be, it's going to be straight. That way, once you look up the soffit from the ground, that sucker will be straight. String is your friend. The string is your friend.
Best tool we got.
Huh?
Best tool we got.
That's right. Best, cheapest tool we got. So all we're doing is just making sure this is flush on the top. That way everything stays in plane. And this right here, so we can still kind of move that a little bit. So once we start putting our decking, that's why I said we will string the fascia, because we will set the decking to whatever the framing is, the fascia is. I prefer to use the lookout blocks instead of like a ladder barge type overhang. Man, I think it's just way too heavy when you do that. A lot of people build their entire overhang like a ladder and then nail it up, and then it's kind of droopy and you're relying on the decking to actually hold it up. So with this is actually structurally put back on, you know, further back into the roof. So that sucker ain't coming down at all. The fascia itself will hold up the decking. You're not relying on the decking holding up the fascia. Yeah, that one is just a hair long.
That one?
Pop it. Yeah. Yeah. Well, hell, put it back up there. I think this one was a little long too. No, it's good.
Catching them strings.
Yeah, it's got a mark. Alright, so we strung this one, which is pretty dang straight, but we had one tail, one lookout up there that was just a little long, so we chalked a line and we will cut that lookout. That way we know that sucker is straight. Alright, and trying to figure out, like we put this side on first, to figure out where we need to, you can measure here, but that don't mean it's going to be right. So I just took a nail, stuck it in the top of the truss, and then just bring it down, keep it in line, and then you can put your fly rafter to the string, and it'll be pretty damn tight. Go down just a little bit. All right, before we put the sheathing on, I like my sheathing nice and the the cut to be in line. So I'll measure down 2 inches. We'll chalk a line and we'll run our sheathing to that chalk line.
Huh? That'd be the bad thing about putting this on, leaving it while it rains, freaking swell up like that.
Swell up.
Right here.
Beautiful. The fly rafter's on, the gable has the sheathing on it. I love this part, man. It makes me excited. You can see what it's gonna look like, man. Putting life into this thing. I do. It does excite me. So we move down to the garage end. We're going to start on there, put our lookouts, our fly rafters, get everything strung, braced up, and put some sheathing on that gable. It still needs to come out in the middle. Forklift makes everything so easier, so much easier. We are on the front side of the garage. Ah, it's cold, my nose running. We have strung our rafter tails, and being that we had all of those, the big trusses set, and then we had these, we were off just a little bit on our overhang. I wanted a 14.5-inch overhang. That way when we put the subfascia on, we will have 16-inch total soffit. Well, I'm at about 14, so we were kind of back that way just a little bit, which it happens. You're gonna have that. So we're going to put some new tails on there, about 20. We'll cut some 20-inch pieces, and then we'll just fasten to the side of the rafter tail, and then just line up our front. We'll line this up to here, and then we'll flame these off a little bit if they're up and down. Stuff happens. With trusses, sometimes you do get, I mean, they sit in the weather and they will kind of move and bow. It's wood, so I mean, it is going to do what it's going to do. So sometimes I do have to plane the tails down. So as you can see, we have the bottom set with the string. Just kind of plane it out, and then I'll come back with the planer and knock that little bit off. It's not like that on every one of them. See how they kind of move. These are almost flush, but there are a couple that are high. So I will come back and plane everything down nice and smooth. And when I install the fascia, I always chalk a line like we did right there. That way your fascia is straight. I used to go to the top, just use a straight edge to the top of the truss or the rafter. You still get some up and down. So if you chalk a line, you go to the chalk line, and then even if your tails are still a little high, we'll come back and we'll plane them again if need be, because you don't want to walk up to, I hate walking up to somewhere, a job, you look up and you see you can stick your finger under the damn decking in between there and the fascia. That just drives me crazy. So just something that I do.
55 degrees.
I was complaining because it was 55.
It's cold. Down. Yep, up that a little bit right there. Up just a little. Oop, down. Up. Up.
So now we'll do a little check. That's what we want. So here's a good candidate for one that is a little too high. We are fixing to install the roof decking, which is, like I said, 5/8 inch zip roof. It is 47 7/8 inches. So I measured from here up on each end, 47 7/8, and we just chalked a line. So we will go to the line. Simple as that. Easy, easy, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Before we start nailing on the decking, I wanted to make sure this gable was straight. So we got the string out, put it on there, and we got everything braced up and tied into it really well where it is straight. That way when we butt our decking, the wall's not going to be in and out like a dang snake. And my fascia, I don't ever cut them to fit on the tails. I always just run them whatever they end, and then we use a block and screw it. Saves you time, and I think it does better than trying to break them on a rafter tail. So it's just what I do. Throw your tape. Oh. Very importante. Oh, out of nails. You dirty dog. Yeah?
No. A little bit more. Yeah, right there.
So you are supposed to space the end pieces of your panels. Just use an 8-penny nail. That way, if you don't and you butt them tight, you'll run off layout, because you have to have that spacing for that, plus expansion is what it's for. But your panel's actually 1/8 inch smaller than 8 foot, so if you don't, you're going to mess up by the time you get to the end of your run. I don't know how much longer we'll be here. It's wet, drizzly, and everything's getting wet. My hands are wet, my feet are wet. So it's almost time to go home. Luckily we got the forklift to work off on. Dude, that thing is a lifesaver, and it's safer all the way around. Very important step before you put down every piece. As you're nailing every piece, you take the tape measure and you lay it out. You lay all of your rafters or your trusses in this situation out like this is on 2 foot, so you lay it out 2 foot every single time. That way it's going to be right. You're not going to have a big ass snaky truss up through there when you're inside looking up. When you look up inside, that sucker will be straight as a string. Let's check this out. Look at this. Ooh. No gappy. Everything's resting on top of the fascia. And if you get everything laid out right, you pull all your layouts, everything is square, everything is plumb. You're not going to walk in and see a dozen damn splices. I walked into construction sites before, looked up, dude, and there was probably 22 before scabbed everywhere where their plywood would break. That ain't happening here. It's going to be right. So just be sure everything's plumb, square, and straight, and you won't have any issues. It's cold. It's cold this morning. As you see, I'm just gonna pin the fly rafter. I'm not gonna nail it solid, because we will go back, we'll put a string from top to bottom, we will string the fly rafter, and then we will nail it on. That way you know it's straight. Even if you gotta sneak it out here and there, that's fine. But I always just kind of pin it, we'll string it, and then we'll nail it off. You have a lot better, straighter fly rafter. I don't know if we can kind of see it right now. I mean, it's pretty damn straight right now, but hey, you never know. Just check it. Check it. It takes a second to check it. So as they're nailing the decking off, my job is to go inside and I will look up at all the decking, make sure we don't miss any nails. And if we do miss nails, I'll tap them back out and we will hand drive them back in. That drives me crazy to walk into somewhere and you see a bunch of nails just missed everywhere. You might as well just take half the box and just throw the damn box into the woods if you ain't gonna spend time and hit the rafters or the trusses. All right, so this is what I was talking about. We're gonna string the fascia from top to bottom, and then they will measure at each joint, and if the fascia needs to come out, we can tap it out, or if it needs to go in, we can adjust that accordingly. But then we'll go back and we'll just nail the piss out of the fascia. Everything has been checked, used our gauge blocks. They measured up down through there and got it all nailed off. Now we are, I don't know if you can see that or not. I can't see it really well. We are straight. Front side of the roof is decked, and well, let it dry up a little bit. It's still been kind of spitting snow and a little light drizzle, so We'll let it dry up and then we will tape it. Hopefully it'll dry up enough today that we can tape it this afternoon before we get more rain. Jeez. Move around to the back side. Since like the front side it's like these set of trusses were just out of line just a little bit. I think we got to cut off about 1/4 inch on this side. The other side we had to add on about 1/4. So I mean, even in a perfect world, sometimes you gotta adjust to make it work. But we're stringing the trusses and then we will go ahead and cut them off, like I said, about 1/4 inch and get ready to install some fascia. You like my metal brackets I made. Hooks right on the wall like a champ. Gonna change it up a little bit. We went ahead and strung the fly rafter. Should have done that on the other side, but I mean it worked out. But I'm gonna string the fly rafter, and then to know that this fly rafter is straight, Brent can nail it down there, and Steve can measure it at that block to know if it needs to come in or out. So on the garage, we'll go ahead and deck all the way up to the ridge on the garage, and then we will just kind of alternate the brakes, and then we'll come back in and kind of basket weave this main roof into the garage. So on that piece right there, which gets up onto that roof, we will figure out our line that we need, and we'll just go to that piece that we've got right there. And like I said, then we'll just basket weave instead of trying to do one whole line at a time. And before you start basket weaving, I threw Steve a piece of scrap decking. That way you can put it down and your piece won't cheat down on the other piece. That way you have the correct spacing, because I have done it before and didn't use that and it turned into a damn mess. So be sure to use a spacer. That way you keep that consistent spacing, because it'll be a pain in the ass if you don't. Last piece going in on the garage, and we've been taping as we've been coming down. That's what I love about it, man. Put the zip system in, you tape it, and you're basically waterproof, 99.9%. Like I said, you can liquid flash the nail heads if you want to, but unless you're really gonna be worried about like drywall or something, then you may want to use some liquid flash on the nail heads. Other than that, you're good to go, man. It's awesome. I love it. I'm up on the roof where the garage meets the gable. I see it, and this is our little backing, our little blocking detail. Just took a 2x6, screwed it right here. That way, once you come in, we put our sheathing down. Then, when you nail your step flashing or your flashing, you know, it's not going to be all flimsy. So, you got a solid backing right there. So when you get into a situation like here, you're doing a kind of a crazy angle, just plumb over. We just figured out where our plywood is going to break, plumb up to your 4-foot height, and then you've got a place you can measure over to the left, and you got a place you can measure to the right. So that's what he's doing. He's plumbing up, finding where 4 feet intersects at the top, and then he'll know how much flat we got on the top, and then of course he knows the length on the bottom. Works every time. Every time. And this saw right here, crazy fast. 60 volt flex, 60 volt max. Dude, I was not a believer in cordless tools, but Steve, this is Steve's saw. That son of a bitch. It cuts like hell, man. He's changing me over to some of these cordless saws. I didn't think it'd do it, but man, this thing has got the balls. All right, so to get our plywood started, I went down to this edge down here and we measured down from the peak of the truss to our piece of plywood that we already had started. Then we came down here, I measured down to from the peak down to where that piece of plywood was, and then I checked it from the bottom of the truss up as well. Then we chalked a line all the way across there, had a center pop. And we're just going to go to that chalk line. It fit perfectly. Our piece fit perfectly in that, in where the other piece needed to go. You know, we was going to have to basket weave it, so we did use a spacer, and it worked beautifully. So we're just going to start carrying on. I'm going to leave that bottom piece up that high because we're going to have a 12-foot long porch, and I don't know exactly how far up onto the roof that the rafters are going to go, so we're just going to leave that little bottom 20 inches off, and then once we decide where the rafters are going to go, then we will deck it accordingly. This is where it's at. It's January, end of January, 53 degrees, sun's out, beautiful, beautiful working weather. Decking, put some decking on, can't beat it. Hey, I love what I get to do, you know what I'm saying? So we are back at it this morning. We've had a little bit of a hiatus, I guess you could say, a little vacation. We had a winter ice storm, I guess. Had a lot of freezing rain and sleet, so we weren't here most of the week. So we're here today. We got the end finished up. Finish up this ridge, and then we'll move around and go to the front. We'll try to get this thing almost wrapped up. We will still like all the porches. We got to dig footings and all that stuff before we really get it buttoned up, but we will have the majority of the decking on. On this side, I laid this one out just a little different. I went all the way to the peak, measured down 20 feet, and I'm actually going to use a whole piece. We're going to make the layout work where a whole piece will work at the top and we won't have any rips. So, and then we also have an 8-foot front porch. So ideally our rafters will land up onto that first piece of decking. And then I have a 16-inch piece left over from the other side that we will put underneath it and just fill it in just for need be. But I don't have to fill in this whole bottom just because we are going to have a front porch and it'll just be a waste of decking to put it on the bottom. What is that thing in the sky? We ain't seen that in a minute. I'm glad to see it though. Maybe dry some of this mud up. And we can work. We can actually maybe get we won't get a full weekend because it's going to call for rain in another few days. As I said before, you want to ensure that your pieces are going to break every time. Start at the bottom, lay every single piece out, make sure everything is on your layout, be it 16s or 24s, whatever your roof is on, but lay every single piece out and you will not have any problems by the time you get to the top. As long as you build it plumb and square too, that makes a difference. A little bit of difference. Roll it. reach out and touch somebody with the roller.
On my back. Oh, what?
Oh, God. Oh, extension.
8-ball left pocket.
As long as we've been using the damn zip system roller, I ain't ever even used extension. What in the hell? Where have I been?
Ain't nothing but a paint roller. I don't know how to use it.
All right, we're about to get it whooped. I have a 16-inch rip, like I was talking about earlier. I think we'll put on the bottom, but I think I'm also going to install some 6mm plastic. I have some 6mm clear plastic we may put on the bottom and flap it over the zip wall, because we are going to have some rain here in a couple days, and that way we can kind of just temporarily and keep more rain out of there, and then we can work on dead wood and fastening the trusses down, hurricane clips and all that stuff. So that's probably what we're going to do. Use a little plastic, man. We'll just utilize what we got. I'm inside. I'm going to cut some decking, and I usually just use a T-square and a skill saw, but I've got my track saw set up and I've been cutting all day with it, and I'm loving it pretty good. It cuts that step out, having to square it and all that crap. Just put your track down and cut. Let me show you. Awesome. Love it. I'm just talking to these people on the YouTube. Hey, tubers. Love it. Awesome. Factory cut. 2 sides factory cut. I'm pretty good cutting with a regular skill saw, but you can't cut as good as with the track saw. Boom. Definitely probably be using my track saw from now on. I'm gonna give a little plug, no pun intended, to badass extension cords, man. They got the Pro Lock lighted in. Look at that, won't come out, quick release, pull it back. Got it, locks in. Now you ain't gotta tie it in a knot and all that BS. Beautiful, love this cord. Oh, so there we have it. All of the decking that we can do right now has been installed. We kind of put a Sanford Sun plastic on there, but it will we'll be able to work in the dry now. Surely that'll keep most of the rain out of there. Don't call me Shirley. But the next order of business is, I think we're going to start digging a footing and getting the front porches the front porch and the back porch. We dig footings, get those poured, and get the block layers over here so we can go ahead and get the concrete poured. That way we can go ahead and frame all of our porches, get our rafters on, and get this thing totally in the dry. Well, y'all, I think I'm gonna go ahead and just we'll cut the video right here, since the majority of the decking is on. All of our fly rafters, you saw how we kind of got ready for all of the fascia, cutting the tails and such. So I think like I said, I think I'm just gonna cut it right here, and then the next episode we'll just get on and just start a whole new episode with the front porch or either the back porch. So that'll be the next episode, will be the porches. If you're just now joining us here on the W.K.D construction page, I do appreciate it, first of all. But hey, you see where we're at right now. You can go back and binge watch everything that we've built up to this point right here. Ain't gonna hurt my feelings. So hey, yes sir, go ahead, check them all out, and you can get a feel for what we're doing here. Once again, I'm Keith Dykes. This was the soffit and decking video here at the Melton Farm Project. Thanks for watching, and as always, got it, coach.